Hello, and welcome back to another episode on the Faith First Leader with your host, Susan Fleming. And I am Sabrina Hammonds. And thank you so much for joining us this week. We have been talking for the last several weeks, really starting with this overall topic of being versus doing. And it's kind of just developed over the last several weeks. And today, specifically, we're talking about how not to live for the weekend or work for the weekend. I'm trying to remember the title, but really, I feel like it's all about how to not just live for the weekend and the things that you're doing throughout the week. It's just really the goal is to get to the weekend because that's the best part, right? That's seen as the absolute best part. Even on Monday, sometimes people will say, I have the Mondays, or, just because it's like you're just dreading the start to that week. And the goal is to get to the best part. But man, what if it was all good? What if that's how we viewed every day? It's all good
Yeah, that
and
sounds
not
amazing.
having to live and work just to get to Friday.
Yeah, yes. Oh, it is possible.
It's
And
possible.
I think there are people who probably say, not even possible. So my prayer for today is that we just give you the hope of possibility.
The hope of possibility. Yes.
If that's where you're starting from, that's totally fine. But it is possible. Yeah, so I was asking the Lord about because we have kind of been on the same topic. And every week I'm like, what's the title? I don't know why. I struggle with the titles. And I was asking the Lord, so what's the title for this week? And I started hearing that song. I don't even know if that's the name of it, but there's a song that says, everybody's just working for the weekend. It's an old song. I heard that playing in my head and I'm like, you're right. That's it. That's what's happening. Everybody's just working for the weekend. And I have so many clients now that even talk about like the sad Sundays. It's like
Oh,
they can't even enjoy the Sunday because they're already thinking about the Monday. And they start getting down, like halfway through Sunday. It's like, gotta go back to work tomorrow, gotta do all the things. And it's just like there's so many layers to it. One, like we're not living presently in the moment. If you're
hmm
already projecting onto the next day, is one part of it. Um, but also just that when you're working from this place of resting in Him, fully surrendered to Him, there isn't, can I be so bold to say there isn't a bad day?
Yes. Yes.
There isn't a bad day because you get to this place of learning there's joy in the hard things, right? Like, and maybe your job is hard. Maybe the thing you're doing that week is going to be a hard week, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it has to be bad. And it doesn't mean you can't still look forward to it. So we were talking before we came on, and Sabrina, I'd love for you to share what you were kind of sharing with me about this surrendering process.
Yeah. So I have tried to be very intentional about starting the day from a place of surrender. But if I'm being honest, I feel like the thing that I have a hard time surrendering the most is my schedule and really just allowing the Lord to disrupt or interrupt or have total control over my schedule with my day. But this morning, I just told the Lord, I give all of it to you. You can have it all. And then I heard him very clearly tell me to go do something. And I don't know, like, I don't know if you're supposed to share these kinds of things. It's about giving. It says the word says not to let your, to know what you're doing. But I don't know. I think it's okay. Um, because it was
You know,
just so,
you don't have to share specifically, but just like the posture that you're
yeah.
in when you're saying like I'm going to be fully surrendered, and then when he actually,
So,
gives you something to do, what do you do with that if you are?
yes. Yes, because that really is the issue here. It's um saying specifically, okay, now I want you to go do this. And then my immediate, like there was a physical reaction where I was just like,
Yeah.
you know, it's almost this I saying I surrender, I give my day to you, but then when the Lord actually comes back with something and interrupts what my plans were and puts me in an uncomfortable situation where now it's like, okay, this is what the Lord is saying. Now, what am I going to do with that?
Mhm.
And of course, it is a yes, but immediately it's just like in my head, I'm wanting to try to go through the things, try to process, and maybe even see if this could be a later, like
Yeah.
maybe this could be a later thing once I've kind of just processed through all the things or whatever. But then realizing it was like, no, this morning, this
Yeah.
is what I want you to do this morning. And I I don't know. I think it was the intentionality, but then what happened afterwards, it really spoke to me because it said, "Really? Like, do you really want to start your day like this?" You know, when you say, "I surrender and I give this day to you," is that really what you mean? Because the Lord just might um I don't even know what the word is, like it's not call your bluff, but that's what I'm thinking, come back with something to say, are you going to follow through with the actual surrendering of
Mm.
it?
Yeah. Did you actually mean it? Are you, kind of that testing, and it's like you said, I think it's ultimately, at least I know for me, ultimately, I'll get to the yes. Like I know ultimately it's a yes, I'm going to do the thing. But sometimes I need a few moments to just kind of like process, like logistically, what does that look like? And sometimes I do have a moment of like, what are people going to think? And then you come back to, it doesn't matter. Like if he says do it, I'm going to do it. And like that's where I come back to. Like I have to be in that resolute mindset of this, not just this is what I'm doing, but this is why I'm doing it. That it's not obligation. It's not I should go do this thing because he said so, but it's a genuine, Lord, I love you and I want to do what you're asking me to do. So even if I'm not in the place of a yes yet, I'll pray like make me willing. Will you make
Make Yeah.
you make me willing? Will you I want to be willing. Like
Yeah.
help me
Yeah.
get to that point because I love you and I love your people. So for me, it's I don't know, it brings up in me questions of why is this a difficult thing for me to just say yes? Right. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about last time was the motive. What is the motive? Am I questioning what are people going to think or how is it going to make me look? Or is it, like, or is my motive purely, I love you and I want to do what you want me to do? So,
And I think for me it's two things. It one motive comes in there too. And for me it is wondering what people are going to think. That is something that I struggle with. But the other part is one wondering, I guess, what are the priorities? Like, and his priorities should be my priorities too.
mm,
And so it causes me to question, like, can I, is it trust? Do I trust the Lord enough with just all the things that I'm willing to say yes, regardless of what it does to my schedule, what it does to the things that I had planned for the day? And like, if I do this instead of this, or is the Lord saying, go do this, and you're still going to do everything else, even though the timing doesn't make sense? Or is the Lord just asking me to take things out of my schedule and work with, like, only do these things instead of everything? And that messes with me too,
Yeah.
because it's that whole, but I had all of these things and I feel like they're all important and they all need to be done and get done in order for my business to be successful, in order for homeschool to go well today, like all these things.
Yeah.
But then it reminds me of being about my Father's business. Like, what I want to be about my Father's business.
Yes.
So if I'm questioning, like, how is this going to work with what I have already planned, like, and priorities, and like there's just a whole
Yeah.
lot of things in there.
Well, I think priorities is a huge one because, yeah, at that point, I would say, like, you've got to go back to him and ask for the timing of it. Because sometimes we do receive a now word. That's a now thing to do. But sometimes he'll show you something or tell you something, and it may be do that next week, next month, next year. Like sometimes it's a future thing. So navigating through the timing of things to me doesn't sound like doubt or disobedience. It's a I want to do it your way kind of thing.
Mm, yeah, that's a good point.
Because there are logistics and you have two kids that you're homeschooling. And so like that's a legitimate, what does that look like? Are you wanting me to do that now? Is this something for
Mm.
me to take them and let them see this? To model something for them, or is this I go alone later after I have somebody else to watch them? Like that, I feel like that would be a good question, not a doubt. It didn't sound doubting to me when you said it. I'll say it that way.
I guess that's something I didn't think about. I don't want to, I guess I don't ever want to hesitate. Like, if the Lord is saying something, like, it's a yes, right? It's always a yes. But I
Mhm.
guess there's nothing wrong with asking, right? Asking those questions too.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Asking for his timing of it.
I know sometimes though I tend to put a lot of things on my calendar, and so there again it goes back to, Lord, help me,
Yeah.
help me to prioritize things and to not get back into that. The more things I put on here, the more productive that I feel. And, because again, it just, little bit by little bit, I'll go back and I'll add something and I can feel myself creeping back over to, ooh,
Mhm.
the more I get done, the better I feel. Got to check it all. I can feel that in me. It's like this. Sometimes there's this motor I feel like that will kick in, and it's just like, yeah, and I don't want to go there.
Yeah, yeah. So, but again, I'd still say those are legitimate questions.
Yeah,
Lord, what's your priority? What do you want me to do first? Order my day,
yeah,
right? Order my day. These are the things I have on my calendar. Are there things that need to come off? Because I want you to order my day. You order my steps. You lead me in the way I should go. Right. And so I have got like all these verses coming to mind. um, but yeah, I think those are legitimate questions. And so maybe y'all are like, what does that have to do with working for the weekend? So this is a daily thing, right, that we do so that it's not the fun stuff only happens on the weekend. Or I hear this one a lot. Oh, I get to do what I want to do on the weekend. Well,
that's true.
what's the thing that you want to do that you can't do now? And it's usually nothing. Typically, people are just like, nothing. I want to do nothing. I have stuff
Hmm.
all week long. Everything is ordered out. We're doing this, 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 and this. So my Saturday is I get to do nothing if that's what I want to do. But what we're saying is when you're living in union, every day is not nothing, but it's that same feeling of I'm directing the steps with God. And that's what people are looking for, the control. I don't have to listen to my boss today. I don't have to be somewhere at a certain time, right? It's the structure that we've implemented as society. Everything is so structured and full and busy. And so, really, the working for the weekend, what you're really seeking is your own sense of, I get to choose.
Mm,
And that's what God gets you. When you know that you're in union with Him and you have that awareness and that security of, regardless of what I do or don't do, He's got me, then there's freedom. You have all the freedom you need. And maybe, yeah, maybe you do still have to be at your office at 9 a.m., but it feels so completely different when you say, I'm choosing to come here because I'm going to serve these people today, than saying, oh, I got to be there at 9 and I don't want to go. Right? That's two very different things. So getting out of the working for the weekend mentality just comes back to resting in Him, trusting Him, allowing Him to give you that freedom to choose what you do during the day. And ultimately, your will is lining up with His will. And because you love Him, you want to do the things that He's asking of you.
now, as you're talking, I'm thinking about perspective because
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about the same position. So let's say you do still have to a job that you have to be there at 9, but in one case it's this is what I have to do versus I get to go in, I get to serve these people. Because I'm trying to think of it from like when I was teaching and my schedule was very full.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't the same person then that I am now. And so I'm just wondering how different would that have been? Because I know there were certain days that I had to have a reset when I would get to school because I needed a shift in perspective because the morning was just, a wreck or whatever.
Yeah.
And it would change how I move through my day though when I would stop and really just be thankful
Mm,
for the job that I had, you know. And so I guess I'm thinking about that in terms of our position in Him
mm.
and how that should shift our perspective, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's when you have that awareness of being in Him and He's in you, then the best way I know to describe it is the circumstances mean so much less. They don't have the same impact because your focus is on Him, which changes
Wow.
your responses to the circumstances. Right? Like, I think people have this idea of like, I'm going to get saved and my whole life is going to change. And what they're really saying is all my circumstances are going to change.
Yeah.
Right? Like they think God's going to come in and just rearrange everything and or fix it or, like everything's going to look different. It starts in here. Everything does look different, but it's got to be inside of you that it's different first. And then your perspective will change to, it doesn't matter what's out there because I'm looking at Him and He's got me. So then it's like I can be in the middle of chaos and I'm going to respond in love versus if I don't have that awareness of Him and I'm in the middle of chaos, I'm probably going to respond to the chaos, not out of who I am. Does that make sense?
Yes. You move through your day and your life a whole lot different because all of a sudden you realize just how temporary
Mm,
and I'm not going to say not important, but in reality, this is so this is just a blink. This is just a moment here versus having that heavenly perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
All of a sudden, all of these other things don't really
Yeah.
mean as much.
Yeah. And so you start responding from heaven's perspective.
Mm,
You respond out of who it is that you know you are. Whereas before you're just you're reacting to the things around you. Right? So thinking about you like being in that classroom. If a kid does something they're not supposed to do, you can respond out of frustration and anger and go get in your seat and sit down and da 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 da. Or they do the thing, right? So the exact same situation, they do the thing, but this time you respond from heaven's perspective and say, that's not who you are. And you call
wow.
out the things of them that God says about them. And then they start seeing themselves differently. And then their behavior is going to change because they're like, no, that's not who I am. Like it's a completely different, and nothing in the circumstance has changed.
Nothing.
It's you knowing this is who I am and where I am. And I'm living from heaven. I'm living from rest, living from being in Christ and Him and me. And so your world, you start viewing everything through love instead of reacting to circumstance.
Wow. So even if it is a season or what you're having to do may not be the easiest, because I feel like, man, that season wasn't the easiest at all. And it was very busy. Um, but I'm just thinking how much different. What would that have looked like
Mm,
had I been different?
yeah.
I have a feeling it would have changed everything.
Mm, yeah.
And maybe I wouldn't have been living for the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Well, it's even like now, you're not in that structured environment. So you have options of how to structure your day, and you have the flexibility to do things that He's called you to do. But there's still that questioning, like we were saying earlier, you can still get in the questioning of the timing and what is priority. And so you still have the same opportunity now that you had then, even though you're not in a regular day job, whatever we want to call it.
yeah.
You still have that same opportunity every moment, you know, as you're working, as you're homeschooling, you have the opportunity to say, where am I right now? And who am I? And I'm going to respond to this question from that place.
Yeah. And I think it's that rewiring too, though, and getting out of what does work look like?
Yeah.
What is it supposed to be like? And coming from the place of, being out of the home and working a job. And then I feel like it's a untangling that has been going on for the past few years, right? And
Yeah.
untethering from that and just being set free and
Yeah.
realizing that it can look completely different. It's a lot of it's just here. It can't look different sometimes because it's here. It's not because of limitations from the Lord, it's myself. and and my experiences, and what the world says it has to be like or whatever. So I think it's just that every day getting further and further away from where I was to where God is taking us.
Yeah. Well, it's that process of
Yeah.
becoming and allowing Him to say, to show you, like, this is how I would do it. Those are the moments that conform us to His image. that bring that sanctification, right? That's part of the process
Yeah.
of looking like him. And yeah, the biggest part of it is going to be the renewing of your mind, changing your
Mm-hmm.
perspective, that untethering from the things of the world and the
Yeah.
old responses. And the more you have that awareness of being in him, the faster the behaviors start to change, because your brain is suddenly like, no, that's not who I am anymore.
Mm.
You start doing things different. And so it's very different than like willpower, right? A lot of people will say, well, I just got to make myself do this thing so many times and then it'll be a habit. And no, that's not, you can, but that's a harder
Yeah.
way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much harder way to do it. The majority of changes I've seen in my life have been almost effortless because it's come out of that awareness of I am in him and he is in me. That has changed everything. It hasn't been me white knuckling through it to make changes. Because I know me, I don't stick with stuff. It's not going to happen. I won't stick with it long enough to make it a habit. I tried it that way for a long time. It didn't work. So
Mm.
yeah, it's been that, just that awareness. If I say make anything a habit, it would be that habit of just reminding yourself, I am in him and he is in me. I'm always about my Father's business. Just having that on repeat in your head will start to shift things for you.
Yeah. And I feel like that that is a good place to start, and then to also stop like where we are too at the same time. Um, because I appreciate that you just share like it is a process. It is, you know,
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen overnight. Um, and sometimes I wish that it did, but I know it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much value in the process,
Yeah.
so yes, we are at a good stopping point. And just thank y'all so much for joining us today. I hope this has stirred some things in you. I hope that it has just given you a glimmer of hope, of possibility, of what could be,
Yeah.
and that you'll come back and be with us again and learn more, or go back to the videos we've already done, watch those, get more information, and just start asking the Lord about these things.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, when I first heard this whole like union thing, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Never heard that before, and I've been in church my whole life.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna need to process on that. So do that, right? Just take the time to do that. If it's something you haven't heard before, dig into that and just ask him for yourself, like, what does that look like for y'all to have a relationship together? So yeah.
Yeah.
Until next time. Blessings. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.